All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have today a guest speaker. I got Miss Kori Linn here. Welcome, Miss Kori.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. Is it okay if I call you Miss Kori? It
You
just
can
seems
totally call me Miss Kori. I used to live in North Carolina years and years ago, so I'm like, yes.
it just seems to flow naturally for some reason. So Miss Kori is going to share her story about her struggle with perfectionism. But first, let me give you a little bit about Miss Kori. Kori believes in the power of words. Ever since she was a little kid, she's loved books and stories. Now that she's a coach, she's more convinced than ever that the way we tell our stories is key to everything. In her coaching practice, Kori combines her love of language with intersectional feminism and a variety of mindset tools. Before becoming a coach, Kori spent several years in corporate IT at a Fortune 500 company, designing and executing communication efforts that touched 25,000 plus employees. That's a lot of people. While she had a lot of fun in IT, nothing compares to helping badass women rewire their brains. All right. So we're going to just launch right in. So obviously through your bio, we know that you are a coach. So what do you do? What do you help people with in your practice?
So I work with women in tech and more recently also women solopreneurs and business owners to help them unlearn burnout culture so that they can crush it at work without work crushing them.
All right. So would this be like for someone would this be for everyone, would you say, or is this more towards like business owners?
No, well, so it's for high achieving perfectionist women wherever they are, but a lot of my clients are women in tech because I was a woman in tech.
Yes.
But the more that I built my business, the more other solopreneurs and small business owners, I'm like around them in their groups. And so we've started working together too as I've gained more mastery. But yeah, it's about that like high achieving perfectionist burnout person. That's my ideal client. I just love them.
Oh, see, and you were perfect for this class.
Totally.
Perfectionism. All right, now, so we know that you work in the Fortune 500 company. What made you leave that profession and become a coach?
Well, so I've been interested in coaching for a really long time, and I was like always a little bit like, when am I going to do that? But I also, went to college. I went to grad school. I have a master's degree in creative writing, which was expensive. Wow. Yeah, I wanted it, and I was like, I'm going to regret that, like getting the debt. And I did, but it's cool because I've worked on that since then. But I went into corporate because I wanted to pay off my student loans, and I just wanted to really figure out why people who work in corporate with these great jobs and amazing benefits are so unhappy. But you know how it is, like once you go in there, you kind of like forget you're in the matrix. Mm-hmm. So I was in for a while and I was like immediately like, oh, I have to be good at this and I have to do everything. Not that kind of corporate life. I was like, it's just like the perfectionism, which I've had my whole life, like straight A student stuff. Like I was like, oh, everyone needs to like me and like working with me, but I also want to be a badass, but I don't want them to be intimidated, but I need my work product to be good all the time. Yeah. And I also experienced a layoff at one point in my career after working in a small company and before being in corporate. And so I don't know if you've ever been laid off, but after being laid off, I was like, I have to be perfect all the time. Yes. Because I also like didn't understand really intellectually I understood why I'd been laid off. They were closing their office in Seattle, but like my lizard brain was like, I'll never be safe again. Yes. So when I started working at my next job, which was the big corporate one, it was a street fight, like with myself to like really realize that the way I was trying to show up wasn't working. And then the reason I left was because I paid off my student loans. I started really honing my coaching toolkit and I was like, I'm afraid, but I can either do it now afraid or I can do it later afraid. Like I had done what I went into corporate to do and I was ready for the next chapter.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. That's good inside work.
Thank you.
Yes. And I have worked in I still work in the corporate world actually. So I totally understand what you just said about having to get in there and the people forgetting that they're pretty much in a matrix. That sounds about right. It's a good way of putting it. So you mentioned that you are a high achieving perfectionist. So what did that look like for you? I mean, you kind of hit on it a little bit when you're describing it, but do you want to go into any more detail about what that might look like?
Yeah. So for me, I also really care about work-life balance. So I was using perfectionism to like in both ways, right? At work,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to like, everything has to be on time. It has to be perfect. Like I was doing global communications. Sometimes things have typos, but I was like, no typos can ever happen. Like everything has to be perfect all the time, which is scientifically impossible. Also like
Mm-hmm.
perfection, what does it even mean? But
Yes.
then at home, it was also like, I have to get 8 hours of sleep and I have to do these self-care things. And if I'm not doing those, then like I'm a terrible person. So I had all this amazing stuff happening in my life, and all of it was just another chance to be anxious. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I was doing that all over the place. And it just wasn't very enjoyable, as you know.
Yes. Yeah, there's no benefit. But except stress. At least that's what I found is stress. Um, so you kind of said that you decided to make the change when you saw like you've done your work and that you're ready to move on to the next step. Was that a pretty big, terrifying change for you?
Yeah, symbolically, it was the actual, like the completing of paying off the student loans. Like we got bonuses in my industry, and when I got my last bonus and was able to just pay it to zero,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I knew, I was like, I'm done. But
Yeah.
it took several more months and a lot of crying, like so much,
Yeah.
just crying and just like, what if I fail? Like, what if they think I'm dumb? What if I don't make any money and then I have to go back to corporate? And
Oh
I
yeah.
think one of the most beautiful things was that my skip level, so my boss's boss, pulled me aside and she was like, what you're doing is so brave. And my brain was like, she's pronouncing dumb really weirdly, right? Because I was so in my story that what I
Yes.
was doing was dumb, because it was a really good job. Like they loved me, I loved them. I had a super flexible schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I like didn't have to be in the office all that much. Like they were really like, I could do whatever I wanted, and I was walking away from that and a lot of invested stock for what, right? But of
Yeah.
course I knew for what. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was one of the scariest things I've ever done and one of the most amazing.
Yes. Well, that's good. I'm glad you were able to do that because it is a hard walk to walk. Um, so I know you wanted to get away from your perfectionist tendency. So what strategies did you use to transition? Did you have any like particular strategies that you were using? Did you just kind of like muscle through it and spend a lot of days crying, like you said?
Oh, so that's a great question. I mean, I've been interested in personal growth and the life coaching industry for at least 5 years now. I've read a lot of Martha Beck.
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to a lot of Brooke. I've listened to a lot of Susan Hyatt. Um, and as you know, I worked with Cara Lowenthal last year in her program Unfuck Your Brain. Um, so there's like, it's just so many things over the years. Like in the early years, it was like I read a Martha Beck article and then I would like think really hard and not get very far. But that pre-work was super important, right? Because when
Yes.
I learned the mindset tools that I know now, then it was just like go in and change all the beliefs,
Yeah.
right? And that's simple but not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did a lot of models. I think you use models too, right? It's a
Yeah.
mindset tool. I did a lot of those, a lot of crying, and a lot of actively getting coached.
Mm-hmm.
And just like a lot of like, okay, this is the level I'm at. I'm going to do my best here. And so like
Yeah.
really I was unlearning my own perfectionism bit by bit
Mm-hmm.
in the same ways that I teach my clients to do that.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, it sounds like it's a process, like
It's
most
still it's still a process. Like I don't
things.
want anyone to think like I've arrived. I do this self-coaching every day still. Well,
Yes.
not every day, most days.
Yeah. You get quicker.
Recovering perfectionist.
Yes.
Recovering.
Okay. All right. So did you do so I guess one of my questions was, do you fall back into your old traps, your old mindset traps? Man, it's a tongue twister.
So, what I like to think about with this is so Julia Cameron is this writer. She wrote the book The Artist's Way. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yes.
It's a great book. And she talks about how growth is like going up a mountain, but you don't go up the side, you go around the mountain to get up. So the short answer is, yeah, I fall back in my old mindset stuff. But like what I love about the metaphor of the mountain is like, I like the idea that I come around and I see the same vista, but from a slightly different elevation. And I think again and again, the places where I fall back into my old patterns they're just new places to coach, right? They're just deeper levels. It's just, you know, you see your own mindset at like in a different way. Yeah. So
beautiful way of putting it.
But it feels like less of a problem now. I'm like, hello, you're still here. That's
yeah. I have found that too. That is, you're right. The more you go around, the more you're like, okay, well, we're back here again. Excellent. All right. What do I need to learn so we can move on? It's no longer an overwhelming sense of like panic that happens. The more you go through it. Yes. So that's awesome. Sorry, I'm looking at all my questions because we kind of answer some of them while we're talking.
Sorry, I go.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I just want to make sure I'm not like asking you to repeat the same thing over and over again. What is one piece of advice you would give to another person struggling with perfectionism?
I think something that's been really helpful for me is remembering that there is no perfect. Perfect is a construct, and it's always only ever based on what the current culture believes is valuable. And, you know, brains being what they are, a lot of times for people, that's like also the culture they grew up in, their parents, their teachers, their older siblings, but it's all arbitrary, right? Like the American dollar doesn't mean anything unless the American government agrees it does and everyone else will like use it.
Yes.
So I think when we are in perfectionism, we get so close to it that it seems real, but it's not. And I think even that little bit of space of like, oh yeah, this is just an idea someone else had about what's good, and it's totally optional.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And all right. Well, I feel like we've gone through all the questions. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation. This has been really fun. I love talking about this stuff, and
I can tell.
I'm sure all my friends are glad that I'm, you know, talking to other coaches about it, because some of them are tired of hearing it.
Pass it on. Yeah. Yeah. I know my friends are the same way. Like, we're good. No more, Brooke. We don't need any more of this. So where can people find you these days if they want to locate you, follow you, work with you?
So I'm on Facebook, Kori Linn, KORILINN, 2 words. And I'm also on Insta at Kori Linn. I'm not super prolific on Insta, but I'm like working on it. There's also my website, which is KoriLinn.com. And I'm currently working with people in one-on-one coaching packages so we can like really get into it and unlearn burnout and turn their mindset around so they can stop living the life that's just happening and start living like the life they want.
And that's excellent. So I'm going to take all that information she just gave us and I'm going to put it below so you have the ability to find her and work with her if you want to. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I love that name. You're probably my favorite name.
Oh, you're making me blush.
Oh, and we will talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.